All right, y'all. Snowfall's coming back on. Let's fight about our opinions. The final season of Snowfall is due to air beginning in late February of this year. I've come to you all with a number of videos about this show, mostly analyzing its characters, but this time I wanted to try my hand at predicting their future. I actually kind of did this already with my Leon video and in my Louie video a little bit. As we go into the next season, I hope we see Leon do things for himself, whether that means modifying his role as a member of the family or abandoning it and California altogether. And I was pretty accurate. At the end of season 5, Leon and Wanda make plans to go to Africa, even if only for a limited time. So utilizing general storytelling conventions, beat sheets, common sense, I'm going to predict the fate of each main character and a few supporting characters, hopefully. First, let's clear something up. When I call Franklin a villain, many respond by calling him an anti-hero. An anti-hero is a protagonist or main character that lacks the usual heroic characteristics. But an anti-hero does not a hero make. A protagonist is just a main character, so that's fine. And then anti means opposed or opposite. So an anti-hero is the opposite of a hero, which makes them a villain, right? Especially when our anti-hero is catching bodies like NFL passes. But Franklin's charisma makes him super appealing. He literally calls out his own actions in season 5 and in this teaser for season 6. But people root for him anyway. Look at the top comment, guys. I'm not joking. But I understand because it's hard not to. There's a reason that kingpins are often portrayed by Hollywood's most charismatic and likable actors. Denzel Washington, Idris Elba, Wesley Snipes, Damson Idris. These actors are likable, which translates on screen in spite of some of the low down shit that their characters do. Add in the emphasis on loyalty, the importance of self, and their power and influence, and kingpins turn into the perfect icon. For the record, I made all of these predictions prior to this second trailer being released, but I'm editing this after that trailer was released. I may chime in from the future at certain points to give opinions on this trailer. If another trailer has come out prior to me releasing this video, I didn't see that in time for me to put it into this video. I think a lot of people disagree with me about Franklin because I'm discussing morality and not whether his actions can be justified or rationalized. So I'm talking about whether they were like the right thing to do. And oftentimes morality depends on circumstances. So my circumstances are not like Franklin's, and that makes it easy for me to oppose him and his actions because those are actions that I am not in the position of having to take, and I realize that. Little do some audiences know, the ambiguity of morality is one of the reasons that shows like Snowfall and The Wire, who, Snowfall essentially stands on The Wire's shoulders, thrive. They turn the idea of the police procedural on its head. I'll get into this more when we discuss The Wire soon. I promise it's coming so soon, you don't even know. But essentially, The Wire was a response to police procedurals like LA Law, Law and Order, and Homicide: Life on the Street. If you want a more topical police procedural, think about 911, The Lethal Weapon reboot, or The Rookie. Police procedurals make it incredibly clear which side you should be rooting for. So clear that they are often considered propaganda and make their formulas very apparent. Police procedurals figure, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. These more dramatic shows work to humanize the typical villains or anti-heroes in an effort to make the audience understand how ambiguous morals can be. Alright, let me get off my soapbox. Here's what I think about Franklin. In the teaser for season 6, we see Franklin running tirelessly as he is confronted by his circumstances. Damson Idris is like hitting the beat. Is that something I'll say? That's something that we say where I'm from. His family and Reed, the police, his demons, he's literally burning down his neighborhood because he doesn't want to confront the consequences of his actions. Remember in my Louie video when I said, since Franklin lost his money and wasn't immediately welcomed back with open arms, he wants to tear everything down and ruin things for everyone. Now he wants to burn it all down. We literally see that happening here. California is on fire. He also says,
but in the end, you get what you deserve. Or deserve what you get.
This is clearly foreshadowing that Franklin will get his comeuppance. But what will that look like? I don't think Franklin's dying this season. If he does, it'll be at the very end like Kane in A Menace to Society. I could even see him faking his own death. He seems confident enough to pursue that option, and there's enough at stake that I think that doing that is almost rational. However, I do think he'll lose everything. I think he'll lose Veronique. I think he'll lose Leon. And I think an irreparable rift will be put between him, Louie, and Jerome, and I'll get into my thoughts on those two next. I just want to jump in and say that this part in the newer trailer pretty much supports my thoughts on Franklin, Louie, and Jerome, at least on its surface, but I also want to say that based on this trailer, we're jumping ahead in time quite a bit. So tensions have already been brewing in California, and the end of season 5 was months ago in the show's timeline. We know that because Veronique is not only showing, but girl, she looked like she been a bus, okay? So because of this, they're gonna put us right in the middle of the drama. So I assume somebody's dying in the first episode. Maybe not a main character, but I feel like someone is going to kill someone else in an unfeeling way in the first episode. At the end of the day, Franklin has to lose. That's the only way that the story will make sense. The question lies in whether or not the damage he's done is repairable. Y'all already know I don't think that Franklin can be redeemed, but that doesn't mean that he won't try. I can see him having a change of heart, but only after making some really bad decisions and hurting people close to him. I can see him stealing from others, catching bodies of course, and hurting his own future during all of that. I could even see him flipping on Reed, Louie, and Jerome like Ace Boogie and Paid in Full to the KGB or FBI, as long as they guarantee his family's safety and he believes them.
What exactly do you need?
Wow, I'm a genius. My mind surprises me sometimes. So many people hate Louie, and I don't get it. If you hate Louie for any other reason than misogyny, tell me about it below. Let's talk. I'm really not sure what Louie's fate is. Louie is just as ruthless as anyone else on the show, which means that she has enemies just like anyone else on the show and has the potential to die. If Louie dies this season, I don't think Franklin will be the one to do it. In fact, if Louie or Jerome were to die this season, I think Franklin would be changed by that. Does that make sense? I think he would regret going to war with them if one of them were to die. Sorry to talk about him again, but since he confronted his wrongdoing last season, it means that it still affects him, even though he acts like it doesn't. So killing a family member, I think, would hurt him. Y'all know Franklin love family or whatever he be talking about. I could see Louie and Cissy getting into some drama, especially since Cissy wasn't really a fan of Louie in the beginning, if I remember correctly. And we all know Cissy don't play about her son. But I don't think Franklin will kill Louie or vice versa. To be clear, I think Louie will fall this season too. And I could even see Jerome trying to convince her to give things up since he wasn't really a fan of this from the jump. I could see Louie getting locked up or fleeing the country. I could see her friends on the East Coast selling her out. They seem soft. I don't think there's anything wrong with the way Louie came to power. Sorry, fight me. But she's clearly made enemies. And as much as I like Louie, I don't think things are ending well for her either. Jerome has been such an interesting character to watch. I haven't given him his own video. I don't think I have enough to say about him to warrant that. But I do really like him. He's clearly like a man's man, placing importance on his business, the security of his family, but at the same time, he's perfectly fine like letting Louie run stuff and being like the muscle. And I like that about him. Since he was the one that got Franklin involved in like selling drugs, but didn't want to be involved in the heavy stuff initially, I think he will survive. I think he knows his lane, and I think that that's going to benefit him. Like I said earlier, I think there will be a rift put between Louie and Jerome and Franklin. Thus far, Louie and Franklin have sort of been able to beef around Jerome without involving him too much, but now they quite literally want to kill each other, so he'll have to choose. And I really don't think Jerome would choose Franklin over Louie. I have to be honest. Franklin is a grown man, capable of making his own decisions, and he's starting his own family. He's not Jerome's 17-year-old nephew, you know? I don't expect Jerome to just let him slide on things just because they're related. Especially not after seeing this. Franklin's wildin'. Jerome is solid as a rock though. Franklin, I think, will try to convince Jerome to flip, but I don't think he'll go for it. I think he's surviving with his business intact. I can see him doing some time maybe, but I don't think that this is the end of Jerome. To be frank, I think Leon is getting killed. I think he's getting bodied. That's just what I think. He's the best character on the show, so it just makes sense for them to kill him off because that's what they do with the best characters. Not this show, but you know, shows in general. I think they could do it for a variety of reasons, but I think the main one would be for the audience to feel something before the show ends. I don't think there's anyone that doesn't like Leon's character. He's not a polarizing figure. You root for him, period. And so I think killing him off would be a good way for different sides of the fan base to unite. For some reason, I feel like he and Wanda are going to come back from Africa together with plans for the future. Maybe they'll be expecting a baby, so that he and Franklin have common ground again, since when Leon left, they weren't on great terms. An alternative to that is him coming back and taking a bigger role with his siblings again. That would also put Leon at this sort of incredible moral high before they kill him off. It would also give us pause about Wanda and her future. If Leon dies, will she relapse? Will it motivate her to go even harder? Will it motivate her to get vengeance on whoever did it? How would she go about getting that revenge? Etc. Based on the trailer, it looks like Leon will have at least some involvement in the action this season, but I could definitely see him wanting to be less involved in an effort to go straight and to establish himself as separate from Franklin again, like in the previous seasons. Considering the way that he and Franklin sort of left things off when he went off to Africa at the end of season 5, I definitely think Leon is going to do his due diligence in going his own way. I can see him wanting to be hands-off, but having no choice in being roped into things, or even refusing to be a part of things because of how badly things went the last time he was forced into participating and he killed Tiana by accident. I think Alton is coming back in some way this season. I like that this show is fine with leaving dead characters dead. Kevin is a good example. His death was unexpected and caused by a gunshot wound to the leg, of all things, but he's gone and the show stands on that. Watch, they don't bring him back just because I said that. Y'all petty as fuck. Alton may not be alive, but I'm thinking he left them a clue or some resources or something. I don't know. I just feel like he'll be back. Maybe he'll appear in a flashback. Maybe one of them will imagine him there. I don't know. I just feel like we'll feel his presence at some point. Due to her involvement with the KGB, I wouldn't be surprised if Cissy is killed or jailed at some point this season. Also, since she is one of the only people left that Franklin genuinely cares about, and she cares for him too, I feel like something will happen to her, even if only to put Franklin in a dire situation. I could even see her sacrificing herself for Franklin or Leon or even Veronique. Of course, if something happens to her, the question becomes, who did it and how will it affect Franklin, Louie, and Jerome and the actions they take? I think Reed's dying. That's it. Reed is one of the only characters in the show that I don't feel any ambiguity about. I really think he's a lot like Franklin. I honestly think they see themselves in one another. Too smart for their own good, family-oriented when it suits them, teaming with potential that they don't know what to do with. They're both ruthless and they want what they want. So yeah, I think Reed has to die, if for nothing else than to make the audience feel closure. So many people were affected by the crack epidemic and the war on drugs, still are affected by them right now. Some of those people pop up in my comment section. I think knowing all that Reed has done, it would be sort of a betrayal to the audience for him to survive and moved on, especially since y'all favorite character Franklin has to lose, like I said before. If the show wanted to make a point about how officials involved in dumping drugs in Black neighborhoods get to move on with their lives, sure, but I don't think it'll do that. I feel like the show knows that we know that it's easy for people in power to remain in power. That's a lesson they don't need to teach us. Do the right thing, kill Reed. I'm mostly curious about who is going to kill Reed. Despite his interpersonal conflicts and brief firing, I feel like Reed mostly ends each season the same way he started it. Of course, he's carrying the trauma of his younger brother dying while working with him and his tumultuous relationship with his father that affected his relationship with his own son, but I don't care about that enough for me to want to see him survive the season, to be honest. I sympathize with him to a certain extent because it can be hard to tackle the mostly mundane task of being a good father and husband when you know that the government is dumping cocaine in poor neighborhoods in order to fund a foreign war, effectively causing a war in their own country. But it doesn't make the rest any less scummy. Since Reed and Franklin are no longer working together, I don't think Franklin will do anything to him. I think him killing Reed would make him worse off. But basically, I want Reed gone, and I don't care who does it. I really like Oso. I think he is mostly a good person. You know, those people who are like, I do my job and then I go home. I feel like that's Gustavo, especially since Lucia is no longer in the picture. More than anything, I feel like Gustavo really isn't that important of a character at this point, or at least in season 5 I felt that he was just a lot less important. Even though there was that whole adventure that he had with Franklin and all of that, he just sort of faded into the background for me. But I would love for him to have a bigger role this season. And I hope he doesn't die. I think Skully's dying if he makes an appearance in the season. He's too radical, I think. I'm a little on the fence about Kane. I like him, so I don't want him to die. Plus, he's patient, careful, and calculated. So I can see him getting away. But at the same time, this guy, he has to be on probation or something, right? He just did a bit in prison, so I could see someone snitching on him and him getting caught and thrown back in prison. I don't know who that person would be, but I wouldn't guess Franklin. I really feel like Franklin will try to stay out of Kane's way. I don't think Franklin is afraid of Kane at all at this point, but I think Kane is well connected and patient, and those are things that Franklin can counter, but he can't change, if that makes sense. He can try to prevent an attack and he can retaliate against an attack, but I do feel like if Kane wants Franklin dead, I think Kane will find a way to kill him. Bo Buckley, he can kick rocks. Don't care about him, honestly. Don't care what happens to him. To recap, I think Leon, Skully, and Reed are dying this season. I think Cissy might die, and I think Franklin might die at the very end. What do you think? Have you watched the entire series already? Was I wrong? Was I right? Fry me in the comments. Watch my other stuff. Bye.